Big banks here and on the other side of the world still trying to total up potential exposure to those bets that went wrong at Archegos Capital Management. JP Morgan analysts say collectively banks could face up to $10 billion in trading losses. Joining us now with his insights, Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz. Mike, we also want to talk to you about Bitcoin, crypto with the Goldman Sachs news that Hugh Son broke. But first, let's tackle the Archegos situation. What was the most leverage in your career that you were ever comfortable with in your wildest days, Mike? Anything even close to this?
Well, Joe, it's interesting. You know, I looked at a bunch of the names he was long today, and pre-crash, these guys were trading 75, 80, 100 vol, 120 vol names. So in a lot of ways, it was like he took Bitcoin and leveraged it 5 to 6 times. I mean, that's the definition of insanity. Like you can have a lot of leverage when you're trading, the euro currency or dollar yen, which trade at 7 to 8 vol. But when you're trading something that's already 70, 80, 90 vol, putting any leverage on it seems insane.
On Goldman getting into crypto more than they have been, and maybe more than even Morgan Stanley and others, if it's direct. That's the story out today. Do you give them kudos for being earlier than some? Do you think it's indicative of total mainstream when they finally get in after it's up to 58,000? I mean, there's people that were in it for pennies. Other people that were in at $10, $100. You got guys like the Winklevi. You started your own firm, Galaxy. Peter Thiel, Andreessen, and then you got some later entrants that we've talked about in the last couple of years with Paul Tudor Jones or Stan Druckenmiller. What do we think of Goldman? Good job or?
Listen, I think good job. I mean, to be a little bit fair, up until a year and a half ago, Bitcoin didn't have the market cap or the daily volumes for giant institutions to really play, right? Ray Dalio with a $100+ billion hedge fund couldn't come into Bitcoin when it was a $6 billion ecosystem. Maybe he could have done it with his personal money. And so it's only now that the system is coming of age. And that's why we often say this is still the first inning of this transformation into a crypto-based or a blockchain-based, financial ecosystem. And so I think Goldman heard from their clients. They did their own homework, and we couldn't be more excited. We want to work with them. We're trying to work with all these banks. And listen, I think one of the reasons Bitcoin continues to trade well with things like gold and silver falling off, right? There were 3 kind of tailwinds that were driving Bitcoin. One is the macro story, but the bigger tailwind right now is the adoption story. And we're seeing adoption, and you're going to see Venmo come out and do some stuff. You just saw PayPal, going to start allowing people to buy and sell with crypto. And so both the tech world and the finance world is coming, and they're coming fast. And I think because of that, dips are going to continue to be bought. The macro story is a little more muddled, right? Economy is growing fast. People are getting jabbed. Rates are starting to break down a little bit. So you see things like gold and silver, other quote hard assets not trading as well. Bitcoin continues to trade well because of adoption.
The question is whether, what the ultimate value of a Bitcoin could be if you don't think it becomes a currency. You just mentioned you think it. I'm not sure. Are you now?
I don't think it's a currency. I think
Bitcoin
is a digital asset. It's gold. And the way I keep, at the beginning of the year, I thought 60,000 was my target because that would have been 10% of gold. But I told myself and our listeners, our investors, that once it gets to 10%, we're all going to say it's going to 20%. And then when it gets to 20, it's going to go to 50 and then to 100. I do think Bitcoin is on an inevitable path to have the same market cap and then a higher market cap as gold. And so it's just how fast adoption happens. Adoption's happening faster than I had predicted. It's shocking to me how fast people are moving into the system and how short people are, right? Because once you decide it's an asset class, if you're not long, you're short. And most people don't have Bitcoin in their portfolios yet, and they want to at least have something, right? We're not telling them to put 500% of their portfolio in Bitcoin, right? 2 to 4% is what's usually being told by these, or 1 to 2% by the more conservative places. And so that's still a really big number.
Anything that Yellen, Treasury Secretary Yellen or Jay Powell said last week that disturbed you? It certainly wasn't it was a long way from an endorsement of a new asset class that we heard. And that, I don't know whether you attribute the move down to 50,000 on those comments, but do you think that Goldman's, it's not an endorsement, I guess, but Goldman's involvement makes it less likely that policymakers just would decide something absolutely, something that could really damage crypto? Are they able to because it's so decentralized and global at this point? Because it's
it's a great point. The more people involved in the space, the more big firms, if it's Tesla or MicroStrategy or Goldman or Morgan Stanley, the more wealthy individuals, the harder it is politically to say, hey, we don't like this anymore, right? And so I think we've already crossed the Rubicon. There are 34 million Americans that own Bitcoin. A lot of them are single issue voters. I think it would be politically really unpopular to do something that's going to hurt all that wealth. I also think when we talk to people at Treasury, when we talk to people at SEC or CFTC, the young people completely understand this is coming. And they are working really hard to make sure we have smart regulation and that we understand it. Listen, some of the senior people are still being educated. We're coming out with a paper in the next, a consortium of crypto people coming out with a paper that really address a lot of the bad actor, FUD, as they call it, stories around crypto. That crypto really isn't used for illicit goods, right? That story that even Janet Yellen had said, well, we got to be careful, it's not used for bad things. It's not a real story. Matter of fact, most people, if it's FBI or CIA, would rather have criminals use Bitcoin because it's so easy to track.